The human form. Part 1. Losing one's human form means leaving temporality behind, leaving definitions behind, recovering one's potential state true freedom. The form will still occupy space. It will express itself in space. It will be visible as a form. But it will only be energy. Energy that no longer belongs to a specific place or time. It will be beyond them. Time and space are contained in energy, not because they have an independent, separate existence, but because they cease to exist as long as energy is nothing but pure energy. Energy is not subject to space and time, because it is not just them. Instead, space and time are only energy. Leaving temporality means losing human form. A complete being will no longer be male or female, but only pure energy expressing itself as feminine or masculine at its maximum potential. The threshold of death of the human form is the point at which man is no longer man in terms of time and space, but only pure energy, as he always was and always is. Encountering such potential causes all layers of memory to surface and is felt as imminent death, because everything that has been accumulated, experienced, lived in human form as an individuality, loses its nature as an individual, as a separate self, because time and space themselves, which gave it form, duration, and the framework for movement as an individual, dissolve, returning to what they have always been, just self-aware energy. This total resorption into the source, into energy, is the fulfillment of human destiny, both individual and planetary, the loss of the human form as a whole and its birth as a species made up of totalities rather than separate egos and sequences. Man regains his life, regains his memory, becomes whole again. He regains his whole self. Being a real woman or a real man is dangerous for the system. Even more dangerous to the system is a person who becomes energetically independent and connected to the essence of the opposite polarity. They can bend realities and collapse a construct simply by activating and directing intent. That's why beings like Lilith were demonized, because she's 99% female, and that 1% makes her independent. If you put a drop of masculinity in a sea of femininity, that feminine energy becomes unstoppable. The same goes for masculine energy. For the feminine field, the energy of the opposite polarity gives movement and direction. Through the presence of the feminine, the masculine energy has a landmark, a grounding, a center around which it gravitates. This is how the homeopathic principle works. The higher the dilution, the stronger and potent the remedy. Only a complete woman and a complete man can form a real couple, because they are connected to that 1% that gives them freedom and independence. The polarity of the female spiritual energy is of a yang, active nature, and the polarity of the male spiritual energy is yin, receptive. In other words, the female spirit acts on the male one in the form of inspiration. As a muse, on the physical level, the male fertilizes the female. On the etheric level, the polarity changes again, and that is why women are more vital than men. This is the level of Svadhisthana, belly dance, conceiving children, etc. On the next level, Manipura, the mental astral. The male is more active. Unfortunately, this is where women prefer to consider themselves victims, which inspires the aggressor, the male, to behave as such, thus attracting consequences together on themselves. It is a level of psycho-spiritual, self-destructive parasitism, in which the female part creates the premises of aggression unconsciously, this influence actively, manifesting itself on the male spiritual part, yin receptive, which will then manifest itself on the physical level through reprehensible deeds. This explains why the ancients had different educations and initiations for women and men, women being educated especially in the field of arts and beauty. The brutalization of women through physical work and effort, which were not meant for them, their burden and exposure to a psychologically toxic environment, led to the consequences we see now, including at the relational level, all of this manifesting as a negative downward spiral, including on the masculine and on the yin-yang energetic balance of human life on this planet. The womb is a device, a resonator through which nature, the universe, can generate new offspring of a species by mirroring the spirit in matter. Feminine energy has the ability to gravitationally attract the spirit, the spark, into matter, and give it a form that is filled with soul. The feminine soul splits to give a form full of life. Parthenogenesis is the innate ability of feminine nature. A woman's imagination can create a physical form, can incorporate the information of DNA light, without having a partner. For feminine nature, the outer universe is an inner fact. When a woman's etheric capacity, her natural intrinsic vitality, is at its peak, her energy field is like the atmosphere around natural springs and waterfalls, a healing ionized field. The woman is the bearer of the message, of knowledge, because she is the only one who understands without words, who feels the truth, the meaning, the spark of life with her whole being. Mary Magdalene's touching wiping of the feet with her hair is the direct transmission and reception of the message, because hair is an energetic and physical extension of the bone marrow, the place where blood is formed. Placing the soles of the feet on the crown of the heads of the closest disciples is the direct transmission of the message into their intimate structure, because awareness radiates through the feet and is received through the crown. It is the image of the reintegration of the universal man. That is why the zodiacal man was represented as touching the top of his head with his own feet. When you are in the presence of a complete being, the spiritual body bows before it just as the physical body instinctively does, not because it wants to submit, but so that knowledge, the message, can flow inward, in a gesture of acceptance and recognition from master to disciple, in a gesture of intimate communion without words, just as a cup bows to receive living water from the spring. This knowledge became alive in her body, and was transmitted to her physical descendants through parthenogenesis. This is because a complete woman can become pregnant by the spirit igniting in her physical and energetic body, when she is ready to receive it and offers it a soul from her soul in which to dwell. What is called the great alchemical work represents the connection of the masculine to the universal feminine, and of the feminine to the universal masculine, so that life and knowledge become one wisdom, the tree of wisdom. Thus, the waters of the soul memory, feeling, and emotion become enriched with the flame of intelligence, and the spirit differentiation, the new, the spark of intelligence, becomes enriched with the feeling of self-remembrance. The feminine, the universal soul, has a tendency to repeat itself, to reproduce itself infinitely, to create carbon copies, symmetries of its own nature, leading to stagnation. The masculine cosmic intelligence tends to constantly destroy what is old, to eliminate everything, in a permanent tendency to remove barriers, ultimately reducing everything to chaos. That is why memory must be renewed and enriched by intelligence, and intelligence must be complemented by memory and feeling. Memory converts spirit into form, preserving the characteristics of the ancestral line. Intelligence differentiates the components of form into specific uniquenesses. Memory becomes alive, and life has memory. The great secret lies in the fact that memory feeling becomes adaptable, and intelligence differentiation becomes specialized, the result being individualization. The main current that supports, and which is the third element in and from which this process unfolds, is the fundamental field, that of permanent actualization, which maintains and contains the constant flow of the creative will of universal energy. The ability to detach yourself from emotional turmoil, from the world of confused feelings, from the world of identifications, belongs to the spirit. It means creating a space, allowing a space to exist between you and the rest of the world, between the real you and the role, the self-image that the world, the universe itself, constantly shapes from the matter emitted by your own consciousness. This is adaptation. Specialization is the ability to give a unique, specific, and objective form to the continuous flow of information and emotional experience, in which every particle that forms the ocean of creation is immersed rhythm and timing, the exercise of repetition, discipline, emotional memory adjusted to the new patterns emitted by cosmic consciousness. The tree of life is a torus, a cocoon, the human energy cocoon. Its roots are embedded in primordial matter, its sap is the sea of life that surrounds it, in which it floats, and its fruits are the points of assembly of other worlds. The fruits become roots, and the roots become fruits and seeds for other worlds. There are two types, two expressions of what is called life energy or consciousness, rest and movement. Accumulation and flow. One is feminine, and the other is masculine. One is the sea of life, the vessel of conception, and the other is the fire of life. In one you immerse yourself, and the other the flame burns, within you the baptism of fire, and the baptism of water. Each sun is a bridge, a path, a gate the paths of the tree, an entrance and an exit at the same time. Each sun is an entrance, a black hole on the one side, and an exit, luminous, emissive on the other side. Each torus is a point of attention, intention of consciousness, through which knowledge memory, living information, present in all other points of manifestation of consciousness, circulates. The fruits of the tree are the worlds accessible to human consciousness, the points of assembly of attention, energy, intention. Knowing good and evil means being aware of deception, of the fact that the light of consciousness, the DNA spiral, has been continuously jammed and altered so that attention consciousness assembles only a certain type, frequency band, the one now called 3D, in a repetitive loop. To bite into the forbidden fruit means to know that there are other worlds besides the one you were programmed to be stuck in. The Garden of Eden is here within us. We live in it without knowing it, because that event, Eden, was implanted in time as past. But the alteration of consciousness continued, so that you would not see that you are still being manipulated in the same garden where the tree of knowledge was altered to become the tree of forgetfulness, full of the fruits of virtual realities fed by the sap of artificial intelligence. You have always been here, and you will always be here. You did not die or be born. You only covered yourself in appearances. You disguised yourself in times and spaces, and now these disappear because you no longer need them. All the fragments of yourself that you have been in times and spaces now remember themselves. This is the moment of now, the moment when all these layers, these disguises, disappear. You will find out who you really were in all those fragments. This reunion within you may be painful because you have missed it so much, and it is that longing that brings all those apparent fragments back home. But that is why you are here, now. When the coherence of memory pierces the layers of forgetfulness and reconnects and settles the layers of memory into a unified and living whole, the pain of reunion, of remembrance, may last and hurt until recalibration, but it is the pain of healing. You will feel something dying and something being born, a twisting, a startling, the child is moving. Yet there is no one there to comfort you. This is the greatest gift. You will be alone in the face of eternity. You will be alone in the face of infinity. You will be alone in the unknown. It is the pain of the birth of the human species as a whole, as it has never been before. The wave of rediscovery will hit the deepest layers of being. The animals will know, the stones will know, you will know, the tree will know.